not everybody understands feelings in some of the traditional ways that they're thought. And one of the earliest things for me was that my autistic child didn't relate to all the emojis that went with feelings when she was taught, and that starts at nursery.
Yeah, it does.
All the way through education, it's that happy face means that mood. And actually for a child who was already maybe struggling with masking, that almost then created another mask that she felt that sort of social pressure to conform to. Whereas actually, you know, her features don't work in that way. And actually, Dr. Paul's work on the polyvagal theory and the social communication in the face, that actually recognises that not all facial features give that same communication. And that's why the auditory process and the other senses are important as well.
That's interesting. I remember in my nurseries, we didn't really have, or we didn't encourage, or we didn't purchase books like Thomas the Tank Engine. I'm thinking of the face. You know, things that were not real, just books about things that were not real. There was the bit of Montessori in me there, that children really need to understand the real thing before the abstract. But feelings is very abstract. You know, feelings is not something very tangible.
And it's subjective to each and every one of us. You know, and many children do conform to, you know, these very sort of specific emotions, and there's a lot of research out there to support that. But as an evolving species, our nervous system is out of sync, and a lot of the emotional response comes from how our nervous system shifts into various flow states in terms of our sort of root, sort of primeval response, you know, that very inherent response we have that runs through our entire body. And I think certainly with all of the children I've worked with, allowing them a language or an action that helps explain that they're having a response without the pressure to name it according to someone else's rules actually can be very soothing. And at a very early age, then you're not applying stigma to certain things. And it's tricky, you know, developmental stages are all over the place since COVID. And like you say, for a very young child, you've got limited language, limited understanding, because they're still in different developmental stages. And what I would really like to see is the focus on some very, very simple sensory recognition to their developmental stages and to their individual abilities that allows them a language to communicate.
Gosh,
and
that's interesting.
Yeah,
sort of like a child development around feelings.
Yeah, to sort of run alongside the developmental stages is once they can recognise their heart rate, you know, then there can be a recognition of the heart rate going up and down. And as well, it's building in that, you know, a heart rate going up when something's going to happen, that fear. I think if we show them a picture and say this is fear, we're missing the point that actually
it could be excitement.
It could be excitement, and it could be a mobilizing feature that is a driver then to do something and try something. But if as an adult we're going, what are you scared of? Then we are putting that assumption onto them.
That label on it.
Yeah, I think that language is really, really important. I mean, I had an amazing moment with a small child. He's not nursery, he's year R, and he's nonverbal at school, and wasn't able to express himself. But he read the first books with his nan, and she bought him a set of these. And I sat with him and went through the books, and I said, you know, sometimes when we don't have words, but we have a tummy ache, you know, and those messages go from the brain to the tummy, but we can't find the words. Sometimes it's okay to say, my tummy's speaking for me. And he was overwhelmed. You know, he had a cry with his nan, and then he sat and chatted for about half an hour, and we went through everything in the book. And he now walks around with these at school and points to the tummy if he's feeling overwhelmed. He doesn't use the word overwhelmed. He doesn't need to, because he's 6. You know, so it's sort of allowing him to have that agency over how he's expressing that, because the other ways haven't worked. And there are some children that actually can't recognise that, but it is quite rare. Some of the good practice that I've seen, so there's a lady in America, Dr. Laurie DeSaltos, and she has a great education program called about the autonomic nervous system. And it's like a little character that's the nervous system called ANS, and she has created a whole language using like sensory words. So you wouldn't necessarily say I'm cross, you would say I'm prickly, or I'm tickly, or I'm scratchy, or, you know, as they develop with their language, you know, even as far as I'm hot. Yeah, I'm hot, or I'm stiff, or, you know, or just pointing to the body. You know, our nervous system response is what creates the emotional response, and yet what we don't teach children is the why of where these things come from. We're very good at going, here's 100 words to describe your feelings, you know, and like I've said before, one of the first things children say is no, followed by why do I have to do that, why, you know, and understanding the why of how the body interprets information. And occupational therapists are incredibly good at this, because they're working with that sensory system all the time, and they're really understanding what comes in and aligning some of the sort of language that we recognise more with the sensations in the body, you know, can be really effective. And some people would say, well, in early years, they're not developed to understand that yet. But I would say that in early years, there will be some children that are. I think the problem is that where early years and primary don't necessarily work together. I mean, I've got 14, 15-year-olds who are less able to explain their body than some 3 and 4-year-olds who are quite capable of explaining the body and using these. And I think in society, where we sort of miss opportunities sometimes, is we, you know, our systems are designed to aim to an age range specific to those children's needs. But what we know, I work with a few early years, I work with primary, I work with secondary, and I work with further education and adults. And I've got less emotionally articulate and aware adults than I have some 6-year-olds, and they are quite capable of understanding some of this. So I think it's about having a range of layers of understanding and making that accessible to children, you know, in quite a simple, easy way, which my books at the moment wouldn't necessarily be suitable for a nursery child to read. And I have a lot of nurseries who read them. The staff are more aware. And this is where this whole idea of connections and the bonding book and the mirror neurons is this concept of role modelling and being able to work that through with the child, and sort of make gentle suggestions and ask gentle questions. And of course, it's not part of the early years framework. So why does it need to be done? I would say, as a species, if we don't get a better grip of how our nervous system creates this information, then we're just storing up more and more trouble.
But the children are like that. They sort of soak up anything, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. And I think that assumption that they're too young for certain things, I think we miss an opportunity to allow them some sort of exploration of themselves. I mean, of course, key developmental stages are important, and of course, we don't want to overwhelm them with information. But, you know, I think there are simple ways to explore this. We do a lot of sensory stuff with crinkle toys and scrunchy paper, and you know, it'd be quite acceptable for a child to be able to scrunch up a bit of paper to explain a feeling, rather than have to explain a feeling with a word if they're not necessarily ready to attach a label to that feeling, rather than the adult attaching the label to the feeling. Do you know what? I think something as simple as a body map on the wall, and you know, the child has a sticker. So you know, sometimes you get the mood boards where they are happy, sad, or weather. You know, there's no reason that couldn't be on a body map. And then you've got sort of plushies like this, or stickers with plushies like this, or something with their name on. And you know, you can start to introduce the conversation by just saying, you know, where are you feeling?
Yeah.
Not how are you feeling,
but
where are you feeling? You know, and some children, that's going to be as abstract as trying to come up with words. But I think if there's a choice, you know, there's no reason you can't have a faces board for the kids that want to use a face, and then for the children who are struggling with the faces, have a body board, and then they can see each other. They'll learn from each other how that crosses over, and get the staff to put their stuff up there. You know, get the staff to, you know, they should be regulated. And I mean, with the really little ones, like you say, it's going to be very hard to differentiate between a tummy ache
and a headache
and an emotion and an emotional response, because sometimes they might just have an upset tummy. But you are purely introducing the idea, so that as they go up and the conversations grow and develop. I mean, I worked with a little girl Friday, and you know, she'd read the books, she'd read my books, and we started going through. And I only put the 5 senses in the first book because it is for children, and I don't want to overwhelm them with the bigger words, with the other senses that are used. But she was really bright, ahead of her game, and she came in and she went, actually, there's more than 5 senses. I said, yes, I know, but not all children know that. So, and then she reeled off the other senses and what they were.
Oh, do tell us, Amanda.
So you've got neuroception, interoception, and proprioception.
Right.
And they help you understand where you are within your body, where your body is within its environment.
So like spatial awareness.
And where your movement is within your body and your environment. I don't use them because I work with children, and the majority of the children I work with, I would lose them if I started to go along there. So I tend to go,
use those terms.
These are the 5. Yeah, these are the 5. There are more, and when you are older, we will look into that if we need to. It's about what is appropriate at what age. You know, yeah. I wouldn't necessarily be, but I wouldn't be going into nursery and teaching them fight, flight, freeze. But I would say, you know, your brain sends messages via brain cells to your body parts, and they can make flutters and tickles and wiggles and shakes, and you know, there's so many different ways to do that. You know, there's so many different ways. Sensory play, water, dance, movement, all play. And actually, I had a play therapist that wrote her master's using my first book, and she incorporated that conversation in with her play therapy program, and it it's sped up the play therapy process. What ideally I would like to see is that in all areas of society, is that alongside a language that we use to express an emotional response, is that a key part of developmental learning throughout every area of education is that we align that with the physiological and neurological responses that we have that go alongside that. Because for some children, that is going to be key to being able to take the shame out of that behaviour. And it can be I know it's life-changing because I see it. And I see it, and I work with children who were in a dark place and are now thriving, and they are able to verbalise that the difference was taking the shame out of that conversation. You know, and as you know, my work started with adolescents, and I'm right down to the younger ones now and training adults. So it's about now taking that and even a step further. It was just on a TikTok reel or something. There was something I saw on one of the social medias that said communication is only effective when there is comprehension. You know, we are in the process of you know, working with different early years practitioners to look at how we turn the books into a much more accessible younger model, because we do older training for staff. So the next thing for us, so this book's all about the connection. The next book is going to look at womb to 3. So we're going to try and tie it up with that and sort of bring in some of that developmental thing. And then, you know, hopefully we can create a model
for early years.
For early years.
For early years training first.
Yeah,
please.
that runs alongside, you know, the model will speak to the training will tie into the model. So, yeah, so it is on the list to do. But what's really important is having these conversations, putting them out there, and then getting all of that feedback.